You are at Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one is for Too Dumb to Breathe, who says, rant about children's anime such as Aikatsu, Precure, and Pokemon Sun and Moon. How would you sell the appeal of these shows to people who believe that only children can enjoy them? What is your favorite children's anime? Lastly, give me your top 3 favorite character designs from children's anime, excluding Yoshihiko Umakoshi designs from Heartcatch Precure. Interesting. You know, the answer to this is probably worth making its own video about, that I thought of right after reading it, which is basically that I think most people come to media for a certain type of story. Like, when I was a kid, when I was a little kid, I watched cartoons about whatever, but when I think back to when I first got into anime, I specifically liked anime for action. Like, I was coming to it because I wanted to see action scenes. I wanted to see people getting killed with swords. That was the appeal of anime to me. Anything that wasn't like that was boring. Anything that was just characters talking, boring. I don't give a shit. I just want to see people fight. And I think that most people don't consume so much media that they need to broaden past that. Like, the average person probably only watches, a handful of shows a year, and if they only come to media for a certain type of emotion or a certain type of story, then they will feel little need to watch anything that doesn't have those properties. So, like, if you only like action, you don't have to watch anything that's not an action show. And I think that action and drama, situations where people die, I think that that's something that is almost uniquely offered by media because most of us are not going to have lives that exciting. So I think most people turn to media to show them something exciting, to show them something that couldn't happen in their lives in a very obvious way. For me personally, because I consume media all the time, I'm always giving a chance to different types of stories. And I enjoy stories that give me something I couldn't get from my everyday life, regardless of how extreme it is, even if the difference is minimal. Even if it's just a slice of life show about, let's say one of those 4 girls shows. It's like, well, I'm not a girl. I don't have 4 female friends. I don't hang out at a Japanese high school and have conversations about Japanese high school stuff, Now, on the one hand, a lot of those shows are written by guys like me who are just imagining what that life would be like and, therefore are not necessarily, like, telling me something I couldn't figure out for myself. But I do think that, you can indulge in a world or a set of characters or something that, doesn't represent yourself and, get something out of it regardless of whether it's so dramatically different from what everyday life is like, So if you are someone like me, I think that's why you'd appreciate these shows. Like, they appeal to kids because it's relatable to them. They appeal to adults because it's still relatable to them. You just have to be willing to put yourself into someone else's shoes. And, like, that's one of the best things about art to me. Like, a lot of people look at art as a way to reflect them and tell them something about themselves. I look at it as a way to tell me about other people. And the main people it tells me about are just creators. Like, you learn way more about whoever's creating the art than whoever's depicted in the art, obviously. But the person creating the art has more perspective on something different than what I do, So I can get something out of that. So, like, in a case like, let's say, Aikatsu, it might even be that the show is only really telling me about how Japan markets to little girls, It might be that I'm not even really learning anything about, like, actually being a Japanese little girl or anything like that. But, like, just what is interesting to me is, like, why would they formulate a show this way? Like, what does it say about Japanese culture or the way that TV works over there, their toy lines? Like, I'm always fascinated in Precure, for instance, by... and in Super Sentai, any of the Japanese kids shows, that in the shows the characters are using the toys. Like, they are using something that is clearly a toy that can be replicated in real life. Because in American media, you just make toys vaguely based on what's in the show, and they always look different and they're always shitty. Whereas in Japan, they clearly care about making sure that the multimedia tie-in is like that it's well communicated between the different studios, you know. So like I might get fascinated by weird shit like that I wouldn't expect anybody else to take an interest in. You know, or in the case of a show like Aikatsu, I mean, I just love the character designs. I love that it's so fixated on fashion and that it shows the characters in so many different outfits and stuff. Just as a fan of the outfits, you know, I just like outfits. So, like, that's a big part of the appeal of Aikatsu for me. In the case of Precure, I mean, I'm not the world's biggest Precure fan, but it's a cute-ass show, and if you just want to look at cute things and have that sort of lighthearted way of passing time, Pokemon Sun and Moon, in that case, it's like, I've been into Pokemon my whole life, and, like, Sun and Moon is bright and poppy and fun. It has Pokemon, which inherently make me happy from having grown up with them, you know? It's like the characters are fun and pleasant to look at, and it's a nice show to watch. Like, in my case, again, I spend most of my time consuming media. I'm not really somebody who's going out and hanging out with friends. I'm not somebody who's going out and, you know, doing tons of shit all the time. It's like I'm vlogging or I'm watching stuff with May. And the two of us, we're going to consume a ton of media. And so it's not about getting something that's dramatically different from our everyday lives. It's like our everyday lives is whatever is in the media we are consuming. And so it can reflect a huge number of different emotions and situations. And both of us prefer to just look at things that look nice. And these 3 shows you've mentioned are all shows that look really nice. I mean, there are lots of Japanese kids shows I pass up on. Every season, a whole bunch of new shit comes out that I don't bother with because it looks like shit. You know, a lot of it is badly produced, doesn't have a lot of care put into it, doesn't have any reason for an older audience to care about it. But, like, again, in the case of Aikatsu, do you like the tone of this show? Do you like the CGI dance sequences and the songs? Do you like the outfits? These are all good reasons to watch. In the case of Precure, do you like just the general feel and idea, the action sakuga, the, you know, the sort of mythos of this evolving series where they keep adding in more and more Precures? Pokemon, do you like Pokemon? Like, these are the reasons to watch these shows as an adult, even though they're mostly oriented towards kids. But I don't think it's anyone's responsibility to, like, force themselves to enjoy it.